welcome and again. The King Talk Tuesdays. I'm your host, Andy King, the show with real views, real news, and real talk. We cover all types of topics, whether it's education, healthcare, Black Lives Matter, economics, spirituality, because all lives matter, and so much more. I look forward to you joining me for more dynamic and inspiring conversations every week. King Talk Tuesdays is streaming live on Facebook as well as YouTube every Tuesday at 8 p.m. We also air on Thursdays at BronxNet channel television, as well as Optimum TV at 10:30 on Thursdays, channel 70, as well as FiOS channel 2136. We also streaming on a number of streaming services such as Roku Television, Amazon Prime, Millennial TV 24, and Clash TV. I encourage all our viewers to subscribe to our YouTube channel, King Talk Tuesday, so you don't miss any of our past episodes. You can also check your local listings and check some of our past episodes of King Talk Tuesdays airing on Optimal TV and Files Television, airing throughout the week. Just want to thank everyone who has been tuning in today and has tuned in over the past couple of years. Because you know what I say, right? People pay attention to people who participate. So please tell a friend, invite your family to tune in right now because King Talk Tuesdays is on. They can drop a comment or a question in our Facebook or our YouTube section, or they can just email us at kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. Again, our email address is kingtalktuesdays@gmail.com. We're going to be right back. I'm on King Talk Tuesdays after a couple of messages from our friends.
Welcome to Therodynamics, where we get you back to life. We offer physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. We accept all major insurances. Don't worry about an appointment. At Therodynamics, walk-ins are accepted. We have locations in the Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, and New Jersey. Our therapists, combined with our cutting-edge technology, will get you back to life. Visit our website at www.therodynamics.com for locations, services, and more.
Good Neighbors Community Outreach Agency provides programs that help community residents improve their lives and support their families. Are you in need of food, clothing, employment, or a home? We also provide immigration services and passport renewal.
Hi, I'm Pastor Glad.
And I'm Lady D.
We're here to serve you.
Need help? Ask us.
You can reach us by calling 718-652-3288 or visit us at gncdcny.org.
Oh, yes, we want to thank our friends there at the church there. I got to tell you, New Testament Temple is doing so much. I want to thank Pastor Pitt, Pastor Gooding, Lady D, and so many of them that does such great work for our neighborhoods, as well as Therodynamics for all your physical therapy needs. There's a lot of things that have been transitioning and happening and going on. But you know what I really, really, really want to know? Oh, yeah. Just want to know what's really going on. Well, one of the things that are happening, what's going on, Governor Kathy Hochul announced today that all New Yorkers enrolled in SNAP will receive the maximum allowable level of food benefits for the month of January. Number two, the Metropolitan Transportation Authority rolled out its first phase of the Open Stroller Pilot program last year, which provided 140 buses with dedicated strollers across the areas and 7 routes in all the 5 boroughs. After 2,500 successful stroller rides, the MTA is expanding the program to approximately 1,000 buses throughout the city. Christine Yearwood, a parent and a founder of Upstand, said, "For the first time, it realistically gives parents and caretakers the opportunity to ride buses safely. We are also happy to see the expansion of this program is a true opportunity to build on bringing riders back to the transit and invest in families and invest in our public system in return." There's a lot of things that are happening. We just want to know about it as well. But tonight's show was about that as well. Some of the things that are going on from our school system. And, one of the things I want to talk about, we have this thing that we talk about charter schools, we talk about community schools, just talk about our general education schools. I want to talk a little bit about charter schools. Now, as I understand it, I want to read something. If I understand it, charter schools are a free public schools that operate independently from traditional school district like charter schools, like district schools. Charter schools are publicly funded, but operate independently. New York charter school law was passed in 1998. As of the 2021 school year, New York has 326 operating charter schools serving over 150,000 students. Since May 28th of 2010, when Chapter 101 of the laws of 2010 was enacted, the cap on the number of charter schools in the state of New York has been 460. When it comes to our charter schools, our public schools, one of the things I used to say as a council member when I spoke before the Department of Education and charter schools, I'm saying if charter schools really have the formula, if you're really doing something that saves lives and really educating and uplifts the minds and the thinking process of all our students, then maybe we figure out a way that we have one system, because you're still taking taxpayers' money. And if you're taking taxpayers' money, you're a public school. And I don't like this divide where we have children against children, staffs against staff, buildings against buildings, communities against community. It's flawed. So we got to do better when we talk about educating our children. But, something has occurred, and I just want to talk about that tonight. But I want to bring in our guest tonight, and we're going to go right into tonight's conversation. I'm so grateful and thankful that the captain of the ship of Leaders of Tomorrow Middle School, located at the Richard Green campus, is joining us tonight. We want to welcome back Principal Joseph Biernaw. Welcome to King Talk Tuesday, young man.
Good evening, Andy. How are you tonight?
Delightful. I'm excited about tonight's conversation, and I'm full of energy. And I know you're going to bring the noise. Thank you again. Our second guest coming in is no stranger to King Talk, but she's no stranger to advocating for children and families in the school system. And I want to welcome her back, our sister, who is the parent and child advocate of Schools District 11, Title I District Parent Advisory Council Chair for the year of 21 to 23, still active, Sister April Parks. Welcome back to King Talk Tuesdays.
Hi, good evening. It's glad to be back, especially with the victory that we have won for our students in District 11 at Richard R. Green campus.
Oh, we're going to talk so much more about that. I'm excited. All right. And last week, we got a newcomer to King Talk Tuesday, but she's always on the ground. Also, the chapter leader of UFT at LOT, the Leaders of Tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Sister Kelly Dallas to King Talk Tuesdays.
Hello. I'm excited to be here and excited to be speaking on this side. The victory.
Well, let's talk about that, because I just want to show a little clip, because something happened in front of your school for the last couple of weeks. So we just got a little clip we want to show about, because we say people pay attention to people who participate. So producer, can we just run that right quick, that clip? Wow. Well, we're talking about saving the school. So I want to give the microphone to the captain of the ship over there at the LOT. Principal Biernaw, what were they talking about? What were we trying to save? Talk to us a little about what that rally, what was going on there.
So on the Richard R. Green campus, there's currently two schools, North Bronx School of Empowerment and our School of Leaders of Tomorrow. And they were attempting to place a charter school, a Success Academy, K-4 school into our building. And it didn't meet the same culture. It didn't meet the same community that we were trying to serve, and really had some potential detrimental effects on the students and families in our community. And so we were able to turn out a large opposition to that proposal, partnering with the UFT, partnering with other schools in the district, and really coming together in a way that hasn't been done in order to get one of the proposals that has been put in turned down in a very powerful way. And fortunately, this week, even before the vote came up, based on some political advocacy on the behalf of some politicians and the community at large, we were able to get that proposal pulled from even being considered.
Well, with that all being said, that's a great way to kick off the show. So I'm just going to ask everybody. I see some hand claps going on in the chat room over. So I'm going to give a hand clap. Let's all give a hand clap to the victory. There we go. There we go. Victory.
Yes.
Well, like I say, people pay attention to people who participate. If no one ever came out and said anything, y'all would have been in the back room trying to figure out how to fight the big monster of Success Academy on your own. So it's grateful that the community came together, our electeds came together, our parents, our teachers, but everybody just said, not on our watch. You guys done some great things. So April Parks, talk to us a little bit about what does this victory mean for you? Because I know you've doing a lot of work in advocating since forever.
Well, this it's just no words for it. I'm just overwhelmed, and I just thank God, because God get all the glory. For many years of advocating for the students of the New York City Department of Education, that this was the first time that everybody came together, all parents, and actually Bronx borough wide parents came out, District 8, 10, 12, all of them just came to the table, the CECs, the President's Councils, the DPACs, parents in the community. Especially, I have to give the thanks to our parents at LOT and NBE. They truly, truly stood up with their children, and they spoke so eloquently, supporting and fighting and advocating for their school space. So, Mr. King, this is the one time we can say that we have one of the greatest victories. We're just getting started, and we will continue to fight and support others that Success Academy is trying to take their space to. But this was an awesome victory for the Bronx in a whole, especially our famous and our loving family, District 11.
I applaud you. I applaud you for those words, because I know the vibe was strong out there. I had the opportunity to attend a few of them myself, but I want to ask you, Sister Dallas. UFT. They could have done a lot of things. They're a union. Unions stand with their members. Sometimes they got to figure out what works best with an administration that either they're working with or not working well with. Why? I saw UFT. Matter of fact, I got a UFT umbrella that day. Talk to me about what was UFT's thinking about this so-called takeover of the first floor of the school?
Well, when so the district rep Dana Fasiglia, she reached out and she was like, "What are we going to do?" And Ms. Parks also reached out and said, "What are we going to do?" And in this last leg, you would say, with the joint hearing coming up, we had children write letters, but our fight was really about the space and ensuring that our students, because that's what a union is about, right? The fight is always about the students, because without the students, we have no staff. But our fight was about the space that the students would lose. A lot of people don't know this, but right now as a Title I school, we are capped at 30 within the classroom. And this proposal would have affected us had it gone through, because we would not be able to reduce class sizes successfully. So class sizes would remain at 30 instead of going down to 23. And stuff like that, that really impacts a community of learners. The students would be affected, families would be affected, because rather than us coming out of a pandemic and being able to offer more services, more resources to the students, that would be taken away. So that's where the union really got in to fight for that.
You just mentioned something in regards, it was about the spacing. Principal Bernock, talked a little bit about the spacing in the school that they were trying to actually occupy.
So the current number of students on the campus is about 800, and the building in its traditional design was for about 1,600. So there's definitely space according to the traditional way that they measure that on the campus. Part of the problem with the proposal was the way that it was set up. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that the campus is a safe place over the past 5 years. And by doing that, we've placed Leaders of Tomorrow on the 3rd floor. We have North Bronx on the 2nd floor. And then we've made the 1st floor a complete community space. So our community partners, whether it be the Arthur Project, New York Edge, Astor, all of those programs are focused on the 1st floor right now. And that's allowed us to transform the campus into a very safe space. Unfortunately, when the proposal was put in, we had to make some decisions on how we use the space in order to continue to have it be a safe place for students and families, but also to serve the needs of the students. And in order to do that, we would have had to give up a lot of the shared spaces. So we've recently completed a dance room that potentially would have been lost by this proposal, the campus library, the welcome center, the music room. There were a lot of shared spaces that the enrichment on the 1st floor that would have been lost in order to keep the campus safe with each school on one floor so that we can meet the needs of all the students using the resources that we currently have.
Okay, all right. That's very valuable because let's transition a little bit of this conversation. Community school. Your school is a community school. Now, I'll just add this in for our viewers and listeners who may not know, and I'm gonna let you explain a little bit more about what community schools actually are. But it was born and bred out of when Mayor Bill de Blasio was in office, along with Chancellor Carmen Farina, and I was in the council, New York City Council at that time, recognizing the challenges a number of our community and our neighborhoods were having, and our middle schools, and we're not just talking about elementary schools, but our middle schools and our high school were getting hit hard by some of the faults within our community. And how was the response as city saying that we say we're going to take care of our children? Born out of that was community schools where funding and resources that normally didn't ever exist, that just add that little bit of push to help that student get in class early on time, being able to be not hungry walking into the school. Even some schools even providing laundromats so families could wash their clothing. But the psychological component that children manage in their adolescent years, all these things were put in place, and great new spaces I've seen carved out in the Evander campus. I've seen great offices carved out, such as well as Richard Green Middle School. I like the new paint and color. You know, I'm a turquoise kind of guy, so I love the color blue you have going in and the black and red all over, and it really looks dynamic. So when you talk about someone trying to take it over after all that is done, I want you to jump back in here, Parks, and tell us, how did you feel after all this work was done and now your community school is being targeted for a dismantling?
It was kind of it was a hurtful feeling. Sometimes you feel like they was taking away something that you worked so hard for. Like it all went back to Principal Lugo and how she fought for that school and the safety of her children all of them years. That she came back early from cancer treatment and everything to fight for her school. And, we advocated for her. And even to this day, Richard R. Green that campus has been going through so much. It has been targeted, the safety issues, our children was given a bad name. But you know something, they always came out with the victory. We had graduates that are in very famous spaces. And just like you, Mr. Andy King, we thank you so much, for who you are. And it hurt us so much because even for the last 3 years when I was the Title I chair there, and we fought for so many different things and programs for the kids, and Mr. Bernard and the principal at NBE was trying so hard to get the safety and get the kids on target. The staff there worked so diligently. They are so dedicated. My godson made it through. He had a rough 3 years in middle school, but he made it through because the staff came there every day, and never have they ever given up on any child in that school, no matter how difficult the child was having. coming into school every day, changing, going into a teenage age and stuff. The staff never gave up on them. And for that, many of them graduated. All of them, you can say, graduated, with some of them with honors and some of them just showing and proving and showing that they can make it. Their community and the things that people say about them negative, that they can't read and they can't do this. Well, they made it. They passed with standards, with high expectations that we had for them. And it would have hurted so much to see that all that they put together and planning and trying to make sure that vision was coming to pass with the children and have success come in and just take that away from them. That would have been so hurtful, that the space that they have, a dance studio that the children was waiting for to start practicing, the teachers was waiting for it, the music studio, they're just so awesome. And when we did the walkthrough, the one thing that district planning said was, there is no way we can reproduce that dance studio in any other part of that school. And that would have been so tragic for LOT and for NBE. I'm just thankful that, guess what? Like God says, what is at the end should be in the beginning, and what's in the beginning should be at the end. And LOT, NBE, and Richard R. Green as one whole educational campus, we are the head.
Oh, wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. Now, since you are a community school, I want to go to the UFT perspective of what is the value of a community school, Sister Dallas.
Well, Ms. Parks touched on quite a few things that we do. And, as a community school and being part of the UFT, I've been in the building for 14 years, I think about 14 years. And, as I walk through, it was an emotional time. And I didn't even realize it until I got the news that there was a victory. But I kept saying, this is what we do. Because I saw students, that came in, and some of them, unfortunately, aren't in the best positions in their life at a young adolescent age. And I saw them joining the basketball team. I saw teachers working with them. I saw kids working with each other. I saw students who are amazing students leaning in to support other students who need that academic help. And when you look at that type of work, that is what our union is about. It's a public school. Everybody is expected to soar, and we have no choice but to work with the students and work with families and ensure that happens. Mm-hmm. And that's what the UFT is about.
Well, I appreciate that answer, because I got to ask the principal right now. All right, I feel you. Brennan, she touched on how the feeling of the staff and the children. What was the feeling of the staff and children prior to when you first walk us through from day one when you were first told that there was an application? What was the atmosphere like in the hallways in the building?
It was difficult. I mean, I think what made it the hardest was how much work we've put in over the past 5 years to really get the building to a safe place where we can dream and create something really powerful for the community. And it felt like all of that work that we had done was just getting pushed aside to give to someone who wasn't part of making it the space that it is today. And that's not to say that we don't have our challenges. That's not to say that we can't do more. But it did really demoralize things. I mean, I certainly personally had some really rough days thinking about, like, what is this worth it? Like, does this impact us to the point where we can't be as successful as we have been, and really take away from the kids who need the most? And I think that's the problem that I had with success, is they tend to serve students who don't need the most. They use a system that uses a lottery to pull kids in, but that lottery is based on very active parent involvement. So if you don't have a very active parent, those students aren't part of the lottery. And for the students who need more or present themselves in a difficult way, either behaviorally or require more services, they tend to force them back out into the district schools. So it's not the same game that they're looking to play. And I think that was what was going to be the most difficult, is we would be continuing to try and serve some of the most challenging, some of the most vulnerable families, while working with a partner who wasn't interested in doing that, and trying to maintain the balance of let's keep moving our school forward while they were doing a different game, serving a much easier to service student, would have been really challenging going forward. And so all of that in the back of our heads was definitely something that I know I struggled with, and I know that the kids and the staff members also struggled with.
Talk about the staffing. I want to go back to UFT because you, as the chapter leader, that means you're dealing with the staff, all the union members who are trying to figure out what position do they take. Do they stick with the union? Is the union on the right side of this conversation? Do I abandon ship? You know, do I continue to give my heart and soul to this, or I never was in this? You know, what was the staffing feeling like? I heard the principal's perspective of the whole building, but as a union rep, how were you able to keep the thinking in sync from what were all the rumors, truths, and untruths that were happening?
And I think that was the hard part. It was an emotional roller coaster, because when you first hear it, all of our hearts dropped, right? And then I remember that day we stayed back, and a few of us just started shooting ideas at Mr. Bernard, and you're just like, okay, well, we can do this and we could do that. And so you feel like, okay, we're ready for this fight. But then there's this thing, it's called media. And you start hearing, well, when success comes in, they're coming in, there's nothing you can do. And then you're like, okay, we're going to fight. We're going to fight. And then you hear, well, the chancellor supposedly supports it. So you hear all of these things, and it was just an emotional roller coaster in that aspect. But then finally, you're like, all right, we're going out to rally. Yep. We're going to write letters. And then you're passing classrooms, and you're seeing teachers have these conversations with students, support students in the questions that they're asking. Then we started reaching out to families. Mr. Bernard said, hey, listen, families need to know, they need to understand. We're not trying to sway them one way or the other, but we want to have conversations so that everybody's informed. And once that started happening, all staff members were just really on board with ensuring that families were informed, and that no matter what we truly felt, we were making a good decision for our community.
Yes.
A good decision for your community.
Right. And I just want to, I inform students, and some students have had experiences with charter schools. So I don't think we were against charter schools. We were against co-location. And it was important to inform students so that they understood, because some of them are going to leave from our school and go to a charter school.
Right.
But the biggest thing was the co-location piece and what that would do to our community.
I think I like the way you shared it, because a lot of people were confused about what the fight truly was, and you all laid it out. It was about spacing, and it was also, I believe, a moment in time. With all the work that was done by all of you at this campus, this was not the right time for someone to say, after we got the chandelier working, got the walls looking good, got a nice plush carpet, now you won't come in and occupy my living room. Thank you, but no thank you.
It was almost like displacement to some degree,
Yeah, definitely displacement, because again, Success Academy does have its upside of what they get done. But that doesn't mean that they take over people's spaces, and everyone will have the conversation about how strong and how financially sturdy they are. Then they should be making it work that everyone is working in sync together, not at each other's throats. I listened to some of the testimony, and some of the children who they had testifying had no reality what the reality is on 216th and Barnes Avenue to be out there testifying. And I said, shame on even Moscow for even using our children as pawns. Do what you do best. Get your own building. Continue to do what you do best. That's all you got to do. Nobody mad at you doing that. But, don't come in and like throw the cover over our eyes, and all of a sudden say, look at me now, but thank you. But we are at the halftime of King Talk Tuesdays. This is a moment in time where, as a former basketball player, and a lot of basketball players I did at Richard R. Green. It was Olinville Junior High School that time before I graduated, and that's why I get my stretch on. My basketball, my flow going on. I gotta make sure that the stroke is still going on. Before Steph was shooting them from 50 feet, I was shooting them from 30 feet. But God is good. But I just want to say to all our viewers and listeners, thank you for tuning in. Today we're having a strong show, and we're here every Tuesday night on Facebook and as well as our YouTube channel, King Talk Tuesdays. The show with real views, real news, and real talk. We air also every Thursday at 10:30 p.m. on Roku TV, Prime Television, Millennial 24, so many Verizon. And so we're just doing our thing, trying to get the information out, whether we're talking about education, which we are tonight, spirituality, healthcare, economics, and so much more. So please tell a friend, and so they can leave a quote. But I do want to offer a prayer up for everyone who stood up, for everyone who had to sit down, for everyone who rised up, for everyone who got knocked down, for everyone who showed themselves and rose up again. I want to send a prayer up to everyone because, the Most High is a great guy. He's a great and glorious spiritual being. And for some of us, when we understand that, we get things right. So I ask you, find your spirituality. For me, it's the Most High in Christ. I look at Yahweh and Yahushua every day, beautifully known as Jesus the Christ. But I'm saying to us all, when we do that, when we look at something greater and better than ourselves, then some of the things that we go through may not be as bad. But he asked you to be your brothers and sisters keeper. So let's continue to look out for one another. Let's continue to offer a prayer for each other. Let's continue to offer beautiful and blessed conversations to one another. Yes. Hey, at the end of the day, if the lights go out on the whole block, none of us got any lights. So we might as well do it right while we got the lights on. And if your light's not turned on, you're about to find the light of Christ and shine into your heart so you can wake up. So I want to say that. So sending a prayer up to everybody, for our neighbors, our friends, our enemies, our frenemies, whoever they are, just offer up some love. And God bless you with some love in return. So again, we want to thank our guests as we talking about what we got happening in the school system. But I gotta turn over to some of the quotes that are coming in. I got one here from Sharon Johnson. What you say? Oh, Sharon Johnson had one to talk about. She said, I shot hoops in Olinville too. Oh, Sharon, you shot hoops. You go, girl. You said you shot hoops too, huh? Well, I appreciate that. And then we have Pretty Tacky says, students need to teach staff and teacher staff needs parents. We stand strong together. I like that, Pretty Tacky, for that one as well. I hope I pronounced your name. Right. But yes, I just want to say to thank Yamaha Maxi is telling thanks to unions. She's thanking all the unions. I want to thank you, Manaha, for coming in tonight and telling everybody thank you to the unions. It was definitely a community action. And what was the last one we're going to give here from Deborah Brosco Parker? What did she say? Deborah says, no more charter schools. Shaking my head. Save our public schools. Yeah, well, we do got to save our public schools because, as you heard our principal talk about, and you heard at the press conference, they take the cream of the crop, and at any given moment in time, if you don't cut the mustard, then they send you back into a place that if you didn't take the resources out, you'd be that much stronger and better. Wow. So I want to thank everybody again for tuning in. But we're going to start the second half of the show, and I'd like to bring into the show a good friend of mine who does a lot of work, a lot of time and sacrifice for the children in the city of New York. I mean, he's a great guy, and he knows what he's talking about. And I've been in the room with him, and I appreciate the wisdom that he brings and the education that he always shares. But before I can do that, y'all have to forgive me right now, because there is a young lady who helps me every day to make sure that King Talks goes right. Her name is Corinne Scott. I want everybody to wish her. She is a student getting ready to graduate from Lehman College, but I just want everybody to put their hands in there because she just had a birthday, and I just want to say happy birthday to you, Corinne. Happy birthday. It's your birthday. Eat your cornflakes and your Cheerios. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Corinne. Happy birthday to you. God bless you. God bless you. So here we go. We want to kick it off because this vote was about to happen. If the parents, more importantly, if the students didn't step up with the leadership of all of you in that building that put blood and flesh to numbers that were on a piece of paper. because that tends to happen now. Adults look at spreadsheets and they forget about the human component. And we're thankful for all those children who came out and the staff that came out and the union members that came out and people from all over. But they would have to come before the panel of education policy. I'm thankful and grateful today that our brother Tom Shepard is joining us today, who represents the Bronx Principals. Come on here. All right, Brother Shepard, turn on your mic, good man. Welcome to the show.
How you doing, Mr. King? How is everyone this evening?
How you doing, Tom?
How you doing?
Is my mic too hot?
No, you're good.
Nope, you perfect.
You need to be on fire. We need you to be on fire. So listen, we're bringing you in because we like to know the panel for education policy. What was the thinking? What were y'all hearing? What was the feeling? I mean, because we know it's all derived around getting a certain amount of numbers to voting. And sometimes people have relationships. It don't even matter if it makes sense. We just do it because of the relationship. Talk to us about what was happening in the PEP when y'all was trying to figure out. And then from there, I want you to talk a little about not only Richard Green, but talk to us about what happened in Queens as well. Talk to us.
Okay, so first of all, I want to say happy birthday to Corinne, right? So happy birthday. And I do want to just say two things before I get into that part. What you are witnessing right now is really the result of what happens when an entire district and an entire borough come together and say that what you are giving us is something that we find unacceptable and that we want something different for our students, our families, and our school communities. So I just wanted to start there because I think it's important to realize, and it's been said throughout this, but that there were a lot of people in a lot of places that came together and just stood and had one voice. And that is so important. So I will say this, right? So Principal Biernat and everyone, what we did was we took a particular interest in 113, and in Queens, there was Springfield Gardens and the Count Basie campus, right? And the reason for it is what was being presented by the Office of District Planning didn't really match the reality of what was happening inside the school building. In Richard Green, for example, you would walk by an empty classroom and the classroom next door had 35 kids in it. And, that doesn't mean that you somehow have an empty classroom. What it says is you don't have enough teachers. And, but when you're looking at these things on paper and you're looking at spreadsheets and such, it looks like an empty classroom. And, it became clear to me as a member of the panel and for many other panel members that what we were looking at on paper didn't match the reality of what was happening in these schools. I won't speak for any other panel member. I think that would be inappropriate. But what I will say is a lot of those concerns were unanswered. Yeah. And when you take those concerns into consideration, right? So there's that part, the space part, but then there's also how school buildings are being used to service the community. And District 11 and the Richard Green campus made it clear that they had a plan for what they wanted for their school, right? And that plan, that idea was not represented or respected in this proposal. So I think there was a level of discomfort when you take all of that system-wide, right? And there was a level of discomfort that really put people in a place where they understood that moving forward with this would not be the best course of action.
Forgive me, but I did get a question when I mentioned policy, panel for education policy. I got a question. What is that, Mr. King? So, Mr. Shepard, can you just enlighten the viewer to know exactly what that is and what do you guys actually do? What are you responsible for?
Sure. So there's this acronym soup in all of this, right? So you have like PTA and SLT, and you have CEC, and you have PEP, right? And the PEP is the Panel for Educational Policy, and to me, it's a nickname. What we are in New York State law is the Board of Education for the city school district of the city of New York, and those are the exact words that they use. So who we are is the New York City School Board, right? So you have 32 districts. You have 4 citywide like districts, right? And then you have the New York City School Board. And historically, that school board was all appointed, right? So you had members appointed by the mayor, and you had members appointed by each of the borough presidents. And they're responsible for approving all of the major policies that happen within the Department of Education, right? So we are responsible for approving the estimated and aggregated budgets, right? We're responsible for approving contracts. We're responsible for all of the chancellor's regulation, and we're responsible for any policy that directly relates to academic achievement and student performance, right? So that's our function. And when you look at confusion, right? I think when we stop calling something by its name and start calling it something else, it creates that confusion, right? So I think we live in a system now where people don't know who their school board is or what they do. Where everywhere else in the country, everybody knows who the school board is, and they know what the school board does, and like what their function is, right? But I think in New York City, there's been some confusion there, but who we are is in fact the Board of Education of the City School District of the City of New York.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that clarity. Because, like you said, you can go to Alabama, you can go into New Jersey, you can go to these little townships, and everybody knows who does what and what it is. New York is the great smarter than I am, then I'm smart. So so here we go again down that road again. But I want to thank you for that. But let's talk about that, Principal Bernard. I know you were having some thoughts when it came to the panel to figure out which direction they were going to go. What was the actions that were put in place to try to ensure this victory with the PEP?
So, I mean, number one, I do want to shout out a couple panel members who took the time to actually come to the campus. And I think that's a level of engagement that we haven't seen. I mean, Tom Shepard was there. We had Ms. Chacon, who was the borough president's appointee for the Bronx. We had Ms. Gibson from Queens, who came out to see the campus. And then we also had Angela Green, who's the chairperson and actually was a former principal on the campus. And she brought with her Mr. Faulkner. And so all of those PEP members came out to actually see what the reality was on the campus, the work that we were doing. And they did just actually came out to see what the real life was there. And then in conjunction with some of the other elected parents. So we have Teresa Roberts, who is our CEC president. She's been a tireless person fighting for what's right for District 11. Shout out to Ms. Parks, like she was bringing the President's Council and the DPAC together. So there was a real sense of community among those elected parent leaders to put pressure on the PEP members in terms of seeing what was happening both on the ground and the parent response to that. And then just the community came together, the number of principals. I think we got at least 30 SLT resolutions. We got resolutions from, I think, every CEC in the Bronx. And it wasn't necessarily, and I think this is what was different this time, it wasn't success putting a proposal together that was just impacting one campus. It was, you're doing this to an entire community, and we were able to get everyone involved in a way that you haven't seen before. And I also want one more shout out to Principal Wynn at One World. The number of student letters that we received from students at her school was extraordinary. I mean, almost every one of her students both researched what it meant for co-location, what successes policies were and how they impacted students. And students that weren't even on our campus and directly impacted, their voice was heard and they advocated in such a powerful way. And that was reading some of those letters was some of the most overwhelming things that I got to see throughout this whole process.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank Principal Wynn out there. And we're going to get right back because there's a youth program that's in your building that's doing some work to be part of this community school building. And we're going to be right back after we get a word from them from the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program.
The Bronx Youth Empowerment Program, YEP, is a youth organization that has served the Northeast Bronx for 17 years. During our tenure, we have provided recreational and educational forums that have nurtured the growth of many youth in the community. YEP has also serviced hundreds of youngsters around New York City. YEP's target audience is youth from the age of 11 to 18 with the goal of helping youth become productive adults. YEP provides young people with resources to explore leadership skills, community involvement, and self-development. YEP consists of weekly and bi-weekly informational sessions with guest speakers from professional, political, and entertainment arenas. Also, as a part of community involvement, YEP will host trips to a variety of venues for educational and recreational experiences. As we continue to partner with other local organizations and serve our community, we will strive to unite and develop the youth in our community. The mission of the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program is building mind, body, and community.
Yes. Oh yeah. As the kids say, can I get a yep? Well, we want to thank, I'd like to thank my wife, Neva Jennifer King. She's was in a car accident. She's healing up, trying to heal up and get better. But her and I founded this program 17 years ago, right there at the Richard Green campus, and moved around to Evander Childs to 181, and then back landed here this year under Project Pivot, and just trying to do so much work to help the school there and be a part of that school community. So trust me, I do understand as a graduate what that school meant for me growing up, and I lived just a block away, so I could never be late because my dad really 1 block, so you can't be late. Really? Come on.
Mr. King,
Yes,
Mr. King. So I wanted to also, we spent a lot of time tonight really thanking people for their contribution to this, right? But I want to thank you as well. I think
that's right.
When this all came out, one of the first people out there in front of the Richard Green campus with the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program was you, right? Like you came out with these students. You really stood out and shared with everyone that this was unacceptable, right? So, thank you and thank the Bronx Youth Empowerment Program for their advocacy in this as well, right? Because at the end of the day, you're talking about a program that was born in this district, right? You're talking about what happens when we invest in our children, what happens when we put time and energy and care and love and understanding into them, what they're capable of. So thank you for really, working with our young people in that space to help them step up and advocate for themselves. I really do appreciate it.
That is so true.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We all were taught we can't keep it unless we give it away. And I know all of us on this call one day want to go fishing or be kicking back. We want to make sure the next generation is paying into Social Security system so we can get our Social Security. Ain't better than being employed. So let's go in this, April. I know you've been in that school forever as well. You talked about Principal Lugo, and I remember going in there. Actually, when we started, Lugo was the principal when we started.
That's right.
In the school. She was the principal at that time.
That's
and
right.
That was before they had metal detectors and all that stuff. And they were trying to do her thing. but the steadiness of the youth that are in the building today. Talk a little bit about what the vibe feels like now that the victory is here.
Well, I think the kids really realize that they do have a voice, and what we was trying to instill in them is that they are special, they are unique, they are powerful. And it's funny, the names that they have is ironic because you have North Bronx of Empowerment and you have Leaders of Tomorrow. And we really think about sometimes when that comes through for everything that happened at Richard R. Green, those two names of those two schools that is now lasting, that our leaders are empowering themselves for what they need to be in the future. They are going to be our leaders. And the ones that touched them and guide them and was there to be able to encourage them and nurture them out to be them powerful leaders that we're going to need in the future is just so awesome. And the kids, when I was explaining to them that this is your school, you do have a voice. And I let them know, I said, this is the one time that you are allowed to tell an adult truly how you feel, and then hold them accountable. Say, remember me, you supposed to be supporting me. You supposed to be pushing me through. You supposed to be encouraging me. You are supposed to be my protector at a time like this. And I said, remind them of who you are. Remind them what we supposed to be doing for you. I said, this is the one time you can stand up loud and proudly and say no to an adult that you cannot take our space. Know that we are standing up and you have to accept us as the children of the future. They are so ecstatic that you should see their faces smiling. I get the phone calls for some of the kids and they're like, Miss Parks, we did it, and they feel so awesome. And this is a chapter in their life that can be that one part of their life that can really instill in them to make sure that their future is something that is very bright and successful. Wow. Sometimes God does things for very special reasons, and those children in them building is very special. And we can only think and see what is going to happen down the line. Ooh, okay. So I have to applaud all of the students. They stood up very well.
Well, let's give it up for our students. Let's give it up for our students.
That's what I'm saying. LOT and BE.
Who are we?
LOT.
Who are we?
MBE.
I want to add, if you don't mind.
Sure, jump in there.
So, when we talk about the North Bronx School of Empowerment, right? And we talk about Leaders of Tomorrow, and we think about the students in those schools and the namesake on the building, right? So yes. Like a lot of people don't even realize who Richard R. Green was, right? Richard R. Green was the first Black, schools chancellor in the city of New York. And, when we think about the history in a place, right? And when we think about who people are to us, right? Like we have to figure out how to fight to protect that. And it's one of the things that motivated me in this, right? Was seeing how a community whose schools are named and are trying to develop leaders of tomorrow, right? And a school whose mission it is to empower our young people in a school building named after the first Black school chancellor. Like, why wouldn't, like, to me, it was almost like a no-brainer, right? Like there was nothing really to think about here, right? So you jump in, you fight for our school, and you fight for our school with an understanding of the history in the building, where we are now, and where we're trying to be.
Oh, love it, love it, love it, love it. Listen, we have roughly about 3 minutes plus lasting in the show. I want to give Sister Dallas, you just heard me ask a little bit about what the children are feeling. I want you to know what's the vibe with with your membership right now with this victory? And then the principal, I'm going to give you the last word.
Well, I know staff members are ecstatic. You know, we're all ready for what's next, right? Because we know the space is there. But we're ready to, you know, and Principal Biernock has hashtag ask us to do more.
Yep.
And as much as we do, we are looking forward to making sure that the space is used, that our students and our community have the resources that are needed to progress.
Okay. I love it.
We're
I love
excited.
it. Principal Biernock, you pulled it off. We pulled it off.
We did, yes.
Yes, we've all pulled it off. You get the last word to talk about what does this moment feel for you and in the entire scope of what you had to endure from day one to today.
Well, I mean, just pure joy for the students, for the community, and now for what we get to dream about doing. I mean, I think that's the thing that is sort of the silver lining behind all of this, is because we were able to build this incredibly powerful community to stand up against this. We now get to use that same community to drive forward on what we want to do to actually celebrate the genius of the neighborhood, to make sure that what we're doing meets the authentic needs of the community. So, I mean, we've just started some initial conversations about how we can use the space to serve and grow. So it's ask us to do more, whether that's looking to do a 6 to 12 school, trying to put an early college there, partner with our D75 students in an inclusive way. Had some conversations today about how we might be able to use a model that puts CTE with an inclusive D75 program, so that as students are graduating from high school, even students who have had struggles in elementary and middle school students, that we have that 7-year pipeline to really help meet their needs so that they can graduate with something spectacular. And so the dream is, like, let's take this campus that is such an institution in the neighborhood and celebrate that and just use it to create unbelievable outcomes for kids and really create a place of joy.
Well, I thank you for that, because it looks like we're getting ready to create some new life there that's going on here on the campus. So we create new life, hashtag we can do more. Let us do more. We got it. We can do more, all the way from the ceiling to the floor. Let's do it. All right. Listen, I want to thank all of y'all for being on tonight's show, and we're going to get back and talk more about what this victory means and how we're going to celebrate it, because there has to be a victory on hand for everyone on campus and pulling something together. But as we always do on King Talk Tuesdays, we end every show with the scripture. Tonight's scripture reads from 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verses 9 and 10. And he said unto me, my grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me.
Oh, yes.
Therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecution, in distress, for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. If no one told you today, God loves you, and so do I. Your friend, your brother, and your neighbor, Andy King. Peace.